myself together, and it just went right to live. Usually, it asks me a question or two beforehand. So, this is gonna be definitely different than yesterday. You know, last night I was talking about the zoo and animals and whatnot. And it wasn't, to correct myself, it wasn't the southern race from Namibia. It was actually the northern race from Namibia for that blue-eyed, lighter black mamba 1.1. It's actually Dendroaspis antinori polylepis. So that's almost like, if you go to certain countries, you'll have like indigenous people, and those are like the tribal people from whatever land, right? And usually those people are not very well studied. And sadly, a lot of people in different civilizations, wherever you're at, whether it's like, I'm just, spitballing, but it could be like Italy, and you'll have all these different types of people in Italy, or you'll have all these different people in China or India, and there's like all these different ethnicities, but they're all kind of like, they come together through certain genetic chromosomes. But unfortunately, most of them come from their indigenous folks, right? They're tribal people. And those are unfortunately the same people that, and I'm going on a tangent, but I'll come back to the topic here, which is like leaked energy and magic being lost. But those are unfortunately the same people that are like shunned upon, and like pushed to the outskirts of society because they're like antiquated and uncivilized, and it's like they're primitive. So it's like we live civilized, so those people don't count. Meanwhile, we came from those people. Those are our like closest lineage to like our original versions of ourselves. So how I tie that back into Dendroaspis polylepis and the northern race is because, much like these tribals, you'll have people that aren't very well studied. Likewise, certain species, you see this all the time, like when it comes to the Amazon rainforest, or hey, how you doing, gray boy? How do I start a stream? Are you asking me like as far as in YouTube how you do it? Like, I think you probably need a certain amount of, so you probably need a certain amount of subs. You probably need a certain amount of views over time. And then once you meet the requirements, then you just go into your settings and take it from there. And then you start. But hi, Moriel. So that's what I was saying about the northern race, right? And they're not very well studied. So if if there are people, because I eventually got to a place where I was, hopefully that helps you out. I got to a place where I was breeding them. Like at the time, because this was a long time ago, I was like the only private person that I was aware of, because I was looking all around. Like there were only institutions, like zoos, like official zoos. Like in the US, I only knew one zoo in Texas that was doing it. And then there was one in Germany. I heard of someone who was doing it. And I had a northern race that like no one knew about. I even had scorpions They're now in the trade, but at that time, it's like nobody knew about it. They're giant Asian forest scorpions, right? At that time, I had them, and it wasn't even known. It wasn't even in the trade. Like, it was like 10 years after I had them is when people were like, these are brand new and they're rare. But I had them 10 years before it got into the trade. And that's my whole point. It's like a lot of this is unstudied, where they like people don't even know about it, right? So the northern race, Antony, was something that like people in the trade, they didn't even know about it. Like, it was like, we just know Dendroaspis polylepis, right? Because you got the greens, you got two different greens. You got the westerns and the easterns. Those are tree, they're arboreal. And they like move, like if you ever seen The Crocodile Hunter, right? Steve Irwin. There was an episode where he was like actually, he was like going through the trees and he was chasing the greens, right? Because they're arboreal, so they stay in the trees. But the blacks, they go through water, they go through land, they're all terrain, you would say, And when they move, just like king cobras, they move with the front third of their body up in the air. So the rest of the body is like moving on the ground, but the front third is up in the air. So if a king cobra is like 18 feet long, you'll literally have the front part 6 feet up in the air. So when it's moving, it's at eye level with humans, like tall humans, right? So like 12 feet of their bodies, the remaining part of their body is moving, but 6 feet is up in the air while they're moving. And the mambas do the same thing. Anyways, that was a crazy tangent I just went on. So back to the topic, right? So leaked energy and magic being lost, right? So, oh, by the way, happy birthday, Dixon Mays. Hope you have a great one. And a moment of silence for Dixon Mays. Hope you have an amazing birthday. I don't know if this person is alive or not. Hopefully they are. But if not, I wish you a happy birthday. But on the topic of what I'm talking about here with leaked energy and magic being lost, it's important to know that when we are giving energy out, right? Like I'm giving you energy right now, right? And over time, I would suspect people will give energy back. And that's a beautiful thing. Now, on a more private note, on a more personal note, right? And I know people can relate to this. If you are giving energy out, and I'm going to get deep with this, it might offend certain people, but this is kind of like my public journal in a sense. I put it out there, I talk about it because I want to, because to me, it's like, I'm not going to write in, I'm going to tell you in a second, Jello. I'm going to tell you in a second, okay? This is not like semen retention. This is like the energy that we all have psychologically and emotionally, right? So if you're giving your energy out, meaning your time, your attention, your affection, whatever type of energy, which really means just everything you put into others, right? If you put that energy into others, then usually there should be some sort of reciprocation. Let me be clear here. That doesn't mean that you expect something in return, meaning like, okay, you give something to someone. No, I'm not talking about like gifts or like whatever it is. Then it could just be a business transaction. And especially friendships. It doesn't necessarily have to be romantic, right? So if you give your energy to someone, meaning your attention, your consistent attention to someone, especially in a friendship, then there should be some sort of reciprocation, right? Appreciate it, Misty. And also, communication is extremely important, right? So if you're giving your attention to someone and you expect at least some reciprocation of that attention back, then if your communication is on point and you're letting that person know, right? Look, I'm giving you my energy. I'm giving you my attention. Because here's why this is important. Yeah, that's the sad truth, Jello. Here's the sad truth. And that's where I was actually going with it. It's like, you tell someone, look, I don't appreciate this because I'm giving you my energy and it's not being reciprocated. If you're being communicative about this and you're letting a person know, look, I don't appreciate that this is being done. So now, if you have a certain drive, if you have a certain ambition, if your determination is strong to do whatever it is you do in life, then your energy is being leaked. And your magic, because we all have magic, right? I'm not talking about tricks. I'm talking about the magic we possess in our spirits and our souls. That's being lost. And your energy is being leaked. Because your drive is being balanced with the energy you give out. And when it's not being reciprocated, but you communicate that this is something you don't appreciate, listen, you gotta make moves. You know, you have to then make an executive decision, like it's business. Like that might come across